Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Annie Friedman. She is the co-founder and managing director of SOMOS. This is a student venture that was a finalist in the Hult Prize competition recently. Annie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're thrilled to have you. Before we talk about SOMOS, I have to ask a little bit about your experience with the Hult Prize competition and whether you got a chance to meet Bill Clinton while you were there. Tell us a little bit about that whole process.
Sure. So the process started actually more than a year ago for me. I started as a campus director because one of the things that's really important to me is getting people involved in social enterprise. That business school students realize that it's not a trade-off, that you can do good business and do well for the world, do good for the world. So I organized that competition, and then once all that closed, I formed my team and we entered through the the general round, got selected for the Boston Regional. And then it was just kind of off to the races. So it's one of the most intense experiences I've ever had. And I met Madeleine Albright. So that's, forever a highlight.
Now, did you also meet Bill or just Madeleine Albright? Not that she isn't a rock star, but.
So we did meet Bill, shook hands, had a nice short conversation. I was expecting. I wasn't expecting Madeleine Albright, and she is such a hero of mine that
that's great.
When I came off the stage after the presentation, she was walking out, and I kind of rushed after her to tell her how amazing I think she is. And before I could say anything, she turned around and said, "Oh, you were so impressive up there." And that's the highlight of my life. So
that's great. Love it. Glad to hear that story. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now, SOMOS is created to solve a problem. Tell us about the problem. What is the problem you see?
Sure. So there are 112 million children growing up in urban poverty around the world who lack access to high quality, affordable, reliable early childhood education. This is a problem because it forever caps their potential. Over 85 to 90% of brain development happens in those first 5 years of life. So if you don't get those right, your potential is forever capped. And that seems like a fundamental injustice that we need to solve and fix.
Boy, I guess so. Now, so what is SOMOS doing to address that problem?
Sure. Okay. So when thinking about the challenge, which was deliver high quality early childhood education to 10 million children within the next 5 years, the five of us the five co-founders all come from totally different backgrounds. 3 of us are from developing nations, 2 of us are from developed nations, but we kind of run the spectrum on every spectrum you can think of. And yet what we all had in common was parents who invested in us and our success, no matter how much or how little that they had. So the question for us became, how do we enable parents around the world to do for their kids what our parents did for us that has been so critical to our success?
And so what are some of those things that you're doing? How are you deploying early childhood education into slums for these poor kids?
Yeah. So what's fantastic is that these resources already exist in the developed world. The early childhood education support parents can receive when they have the money to access it is incredible. What we do is make those same resources available at 1 day's wages is essentially where we've targeted it. So, 1/300th of what a person earns. What we do is deliver age-appropriate curriculum direct to parents' phones through the most popular messaging system on the planet, WhatsApp, that turns their daily routines into brain-building activities for their kids. We license the content from the world's foremost creators and experts on early childhood development, and then deliver it through infrastructure the people we're trying to reach already have, use, and like.
Can you give us some examples of the activities that you're encouraging people to do so we can kind of grasp what this is?
Sure. So one of the most if not the most important factor in the development of a young child's brain, is simply interaction with a loving, knowledgeable, responsive caregiver. So what we do is send suggestions that spur such beneficial interaction. And those suggestions are simple. Things like when you're folding the laundry, talk about the different colors, talk about your associations with them. If you really like blue, why do you really like blue? And then having that conversation with your kid teaches them about colors. It also makes them remember it better because you're giving them more than just, this is blue, this is purple. But, this reminds me of the sky when, I was growing up in northern Zimbabwe, blah, 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 blah.
Interesting. So as you deploy this, what kind of process are you using to get the parents involved? How are you getting them engaged?
So we work through known and trusted channels because we know what we're asking for is a lot. We're asking parents to trust us with their relationship with their kids. So you have to come at that from a trusted source. So we work through schools, daycares, doctors, hospitals, and NGOs where parents are already receiving services. And then one of the things that we're particularly excited about that we feel like makes our solution more effective and enduring over the long term is we're delivering this curriculum in small groups. So around 30 parents who live in the same area and have kids of the same age. So we build community around early childhood education and build communities that follow a child for a lifetime. Because what you're seeing generally is even the best early. So if we don't have a system, a support structure that's going to build the correct foundation, but also a ladder to success, we haven't really done much for kids. So that's why we think community is really important.
That's an interesting approach because, there's that old saying, it takes a village, right? It comes out of Africa, and it seems you're tapping into that by ensuring that there is some sort of a community around each child.
So that's exactly how we think about what we're doing, is that we're building virtual villages of resources and support around kids and their parents. So
how did you come up with this model? I think maybe the composition of your team has something to do with this. Tell us a little bit about how you came upon this.
Definitely. So one of the things that I really love about what we've done is that it is a reflection of the five of us. Had any one of us been different or not involved, the situation or our solution would look very different. How we came up with it was, so the challenge is 10 million kids within 5 years. So that conveyed a lot of constraints to us right off the bat. We knew that we couldn't build infrastructure because that would not scale in the time frame that we were looking to scale. So what did parents already have access to that we could utilize for greater success? First answer, cell phones. That's everyone has them, and soon they're going to have smartphones, which means even greater possibilities, which is really exciting. So we wanted to kind of scour the world for what already exists and how can we deliver it in a new way so that we're not rebuilding all parts of the wheel. The other thing that was really key to us was, Paul Farmer talks a lot about preferential options for the poor. It was really important to us that whatever we deliver to the people that we're trying to serve be a service that we ourselves as parents would use. Our approach was not, oh, something's better than nothing. Our approach was, what can we do that's going to make a real difference in people's lives? So that's, I think, we create these communities as an ends in themselves, but also because these communities are fabulous distribution platforms for other complementary services, because we know, all of these issues, lack of early childhood education, poverty, economic development, they're all interrelated. So we needed a comprehensive solution, or at least one that we could go at the problem from multiple angles. And we believe that these people have incredible resources and knowledge and wisdom already at their fingertips. It was important to us to add to that, but also to respect it and to give them a platform to share their own wisdom, to advise and support each other. And because community-owned solutions are the ones that go the distance.
Yes, that really is, I think, a compelling model that you created. Now, as a Hult Prize finalist, as someone who now counts as among her close friends, Madeleine Albright, you are becoming a role model to the world. Who do you look up to?
My friend Lizzie Lassiter. She's been my best friend since middle school. And I think what I really respect about her, we've known each other for 20 years now. And I've watched so many iterations of her and her personality, all of which were true. But this is a woman who has never shied away from following her authentic truth, architecting her own life. She went to architecture school, but found that it wasn't the right fit for her. So, switched to designing jewelry with the same software that she used to design buildings, and is now doing this Living with the Buddha program that kind of gives you daily tips for greater mindfulness. And every day she just reinvents herself in a way that is more authentic, more true to who she is, that kind of demands the world fit her rather than her trying to cut off parts of herself to fit a box. And I'm continually inspired by that.
Oh, that's great. I think that's a great reference point for us all, and I appreciate you sharing that story. Now, you are really focused on making a huge difference in the world, and you could be doing anything. Why are you focused on making a difference?
So there's making a difference in general, and there's making a difference in specific on this issue. I think in general, because I'm a firm believer in to those whom much is given, much is expected. And I got super lucky in the lottery of birth, and I've got one life. What could be more valuable than using it to kind of share my privilege? Specifically to education, it's so foundational. All of the things that have meant the most to me are rooted in the fact that I've always had the best opportunities toward education. And that feels unfair that it's just by accident of my birth. So that's why it's an important thing for me to work on.
Well, I think that is very gracious of you. I think there are plenty of people in this world who are born with privilege who pursue greater privilege. So I commend you for wanting to give back.
Thank you.
Now, as you've been through this experience over the last year plus, you've really come a long way. And part of what certainly you must have learned are to develop habits and practices that allow you to have more impact, do more good in the world. And we're always looking here at Your Mark on the World for more impact hacks, some secret way to do more good. What can you share with us?
Sure. What's worked for me? So I spent a year in a PhD program a few years ago, and I ended up reading this one article that was how to fail as a grad student, a satirical article that was all about how, read only within your discipline, only ever work on your research, kind of all these things that for some reason it really stuck with me, that balance. I watch a lot of really bad reality TV. I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi and historical fiction, things that have absolutely nothing to do with my work. And that for me is a constant source of inspiration and reinvigoration, because, you know, when you get siloed, there are no new ideas. But it's been fun, you know, and just finished this Orson Scott Card book that's about wizards. And it's odd what I've been able to apply to my work from this, you know, fantasy novel. But I also think, specifically looking to the biological world, the analogs in whatever work we're doing are there, and learning from those is I guess how I keep my kind of font of creativity font-like.
I love it. I love it. I love Orson Scott Card. He's a brilliant writer, and I think he is a deep thinker. And so it isn't surprising that you can take inspiration from what he writes. That's great. Well, listen, Annie, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, sharing your insights and your stories. Before you go, please tell us how people can learn more about SOMOS and how they can be of help.
First of all, thank you so much. This was a great experience. I didn't need to be as nervous as I was. And my email address, I think, is probably the best way to get in touch with me. It's Annie, ANNE, .Friedman, FRIEDMAN, @gmail.com.
Fantastic. Annie, we're thrilled to have had you today. Thank you very much for your time. We wish you every success in the great work you're doing.
Thank you. Same to you.
All righty. Let's do some good.